Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the dusty, sun-baked streets of ancient Rome, where you're not a senator sipping wine or a gladiator basking in cheers. No, you're a female slave, and every dawn feels like a punch to the gut. Picture this. The air's thick with olive oil and sweat, distant roosters screech, and your straw palate prickles your back like a bad life choice. You probably won't survive this grind, not without losing a piece of yourself. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe cover with blanket for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before the sun, jolted by the sharp bark of the overseer, a grizzled man with a voice like gravel underfoot. Your eyes sting from yesterday's exhaustion, but there's no lingering. Dawdling means a lash or worse. You're in a cramped slave quarters, a dim room stuffed with bodies and the sour tang of unwashed cloth. The walls are cracked plaster, cold against your bare feet as you scramble up. You're maybe 20, though years blur when every day's a slog. Your tunic, a rough hemp sack dyed a faded gray, clings to your skin. It's all you own, this and the calluses on your hands. The household's already stirring. You're in a wealthy Roman villa, property of a patrician named Lucius, whose wife, the Domina, rules with a stare that could curdle milk. Your role? Everything. You clean, cook, fetch, and fade into the background. Today's first task is fetching water from the courtyard well before the family rises. You grab a chipped clay jug, its weight familiar as an old grudge, and shuffle outside. The sky's bruising purple, stars fading like dreams you can't afford. The well's rope bites your palms as you haul up water, each pull a reminder of your place. Mainstream history tells us slavery in Rome was the backbone of the economy. Millions, maybe a third of the population, were enslaved, powering farms, mines, and homes like this one. You're one of countless women trapped in domestic toil, your life dictated by whim. A quirky tidbit? Romans used urine as a laundry detergent, believing its ammonia cleaned stains. You'll be scrubbing with it later, nose wrinkling at the stench. Historians still argue whether female slaves had it easier than men, spared from mines but crushed by endless household demands and other expectations. You carry the jug back, water sloshing against your shins. The kitchen's your next stop, where you'll knead dough for the family's breakfast. A slave girl, barely 10, scurries past, hauling firewood. You flash her a grim smile. Solidarity's rare here. The overseer's shadow looms. He's fond of correcting with a stick. You move faster, though your back screams. Ever try kneading bread with zero sleep? It's like arm wrestling a mule. The dough's sticky, flecked with grit from the millstone. But it'll be flatbread for Lucius's table, not you. You get porridge, if you're lucky. The Domina sweeps in, her silk stola rustling like a warning. She inspects the kitchen, lips pursed. You keep your eyes down, but you feel her gaze, sharp as a pin. One misstep, a lumpy loaf, a smudge on her plate, and you're done. You're not a person to her, just hands and feet. Funny thing though, she's obsessed with her pet peacock, cooing at it like it's her kid. You? Invisible, unless you screw up. The sun's creeping up now, painting the villa gold. For you, it's just another hour closer to collapse. You're still in the villa's kitchen, the air now heavy with the yeasty scent of dough and the faint smoke from the hearth. The Domina's silhouette lingers in the doorway, her eyes flicking over your work like a hawk sizing up prey. You keep your head down, shaping flatbreads with quick, practiced slaps, but your heart's thudding. One wrong move, a loaf too dense, a speck of ash on her plate, and she'll have the overseer drag you out for discipline. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and survival means being flawless, invisible, and fast. The sun's barely up, and you're already bone-tired, your palms stinging from hauling that water jug earlier. Remember that well rope's bite? It's a love letter compared to what's coming. The domina finally glides away, her sandals clicking on the mosaic floor, leaving you to exhale. You stack the warm flatbreads, their edges crisp, and arrange them on a bronze tray alongside olives and a wedge of hard cheese. This is breakfast for Lucius and his family, not you. Your stomach growls, but you'll get a scrap of barley porridge later, if the cook's in a good mood. Mainstream history notes that Roman households relied heavily on female slaves for domestic tasks. Cooking, cleaning, and serving were your domain, while male slaves often worked fields or crafts. You're one of thousands keeping villas like this running, your labor as essential as it is ignored. A quirky tidbit? Romans loved their food garum-soaked, that fishy sauce you're dodging as you set the table. It's like the ketchup of antiquity, but smells like a harbor at low tide. Historians still argue whether slaves like you ever got to taste the luxuries you prepared, or if you were stuck with gruel while the elite feasted. You enter the triclinium, its walls painted with vibrant frescoes of gods and vineyards. Lucius lounges, his toga draped like he's posing for a statue, while the domina fusses over her peacock, which struts across the floor like it owns the place. You set the tray down, careful not to clink the dishes. The domina's gaze snaps to you, cold as winter rain. "Faster next time," she says, her voice a blade. You nod, eyes on the floor, and back away. "Faster? You're already moving like you're dodging chariot traffic." The peacock squawks, and you stifle a laugh. Imagine if you trained it to steal her jewelry. Dream on. Your next task is clearing the atrium, the open courtyard where Lucius greets clients. You grab a twig broom and start sweeping, dust swirling in the morning light. The floor's a masterpiece of black and white mosaics, dolphins and vines twisting under your feet. Pretty, sure, but you're not here to admire it. Your knees ache as you crouch to scrub a stubborn stain, the domina's words echoing, "Faster, faster." A client arrives, some pompous senator droning about taxes. You're invisible to him, just part of the furniture. Ever feel like you're sprinting in a dream but going nowhere? That's your life. The overseer hovers nearby, his stick tapping his palm like a threat. You sweep harder, ignoring the sweat trickling down your neck. Another slave, a wiry girl named Mira, passes with a basket of laundry. She mutters, "Domina's in a mood today." You roll your eyes, when isn't she? Mira's your only ally here, but you're both too busy to chat. The atrium's clean now, but there's no pause. You're sent to fetch wine from the cellar, the cool darkness a brief relief from the domina's glare. The jars are heavy, their clay slick with dust. You haul one up, praying it doesn't slip. Break it, and you're sleeping with the pigs, if you're lucky. You're back in the villa, the wine jar safely delivered to the kitchen, but there's no time to catch your breath. The domina's voice echoes from the triclinium, demanding the floors be spotless before her guests arrive tonight. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and rest is a fairy tale for fools. Your hands are still damp from scrubbing, and your knees feel like they're plotting a rebellion. Remember that peacock strutting like it owns the place? You'd trade places with it in a heartbeat, feathers and all. For now, you grab a rag and a bucket of murky water, the kind that smells like it's been plotting revenge since last week, and head to the peristyle, the garden courtyard lined with gleaming mosaics. The tiles here are a dizzying swirl of blues and reds, depicting nymphs dancing with improbable grace. You drop to your knees, the stone cold and unforgiving, and start scrubbing. Each stroke is a battle, your arms burning as you chase smudges that might not even exist. The domina's guests will parade through here, their sandals tracking in who knows what, and if they spot a speck of dirt, it's your hide. You mutter to yourself, "Maybe I'll polish it so well they'll slip and sue Lucius." A risky joke, but it keeps you sane. The sun's climbing, baking your back through your thin tunic, and sweat stings your eyes. Mainstream history confirms that Roman villas were showcases of wealth, their intricate mosaics crafted by skilled artisans, often slaves themselves, using thousands of tiny tesserae stones. You're not creating art, though, you're erasing traces of it. A quirky tidbit? Some Romans believed rubbing floors with garlic warded off evil spirits. You're not sure about spirits, but the smell might ward off the domina. Historians still argue whether slaves like you took pride in maintaining these grand homes or just gritted their teeth through the grind. Your rag's already gray, and the bucket's a swamp. You dunk it anyway, wringing out the cloth with hands that feel like they've aged a decade. A sparrow flits through the garden, landing on a rosebush. You pause, envying its freedom. Ever wish you could sprout wings and ditch your to-do list? Yeah, you and every slave in Rome. The roses are the dominus pride, their petals blood red, but you're forbidden to touch them. Last month, a slave boy was whipped for picking one. You focus on the tiles, scrubbing a corner where wine spilled during Lucius's last party. The stain's stubborn, like your hope of a better day. Mira, the laundry girl, hurries past, her arms full of damp linens. She whispers, "Guests tonight, big shots from the Senate." Great, more egos to tiptoe around. You nod, keeping your rhythm. The overseer's not far, his shadow creeping across the mosaics like a bad omen. You scrub faster, though your wrists scream. The nymphs on the tiles seem to mock you, their frozen smiles saying, "We're free, you're not." Funny thing, you've heard some slaves carve tiny curses into floors, hidden in the grout. You're tempted, but the risk's too high. Instead, you imagine the domina tripping over her stola. Small victories. The bucket's nearly empty, so you shuffle to the well again. The rope still got it out for you, digging into your palms like it's personal. You haul up water, sloshing half of it on your tunic. Back at the peristyle, you finish the last tiles, your reflection faint in their shine. The garden's quiet now, save for the hum of bees. You'd kill for a moment to sit, but the kitchen's calling. More trays to prep, more orders to dodge. Your knees creak as you stand, and you wonder how many years this life will shave off you. Spoiler? Probably all of them. You're out of the villa now, the polished mosaics and the dominus piercing stare behind you. But don't kid yourself, there's no break in sight. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and your latest order is to hit the Forum, the chaotic heart of the city, to fetch supplies for tonight's big senator-filled bash. The sun's high, blasting heat onto the cobblestones, and your tunic's already sticking to your skin like a bad decision. You clutch a wicker basket and a few bronze coins, entrusted to you by the cook with a warning, "Lose 1 sestertius, and it's your back." You nod, but your stomach's doing flips. The Forum's a jungle, merchants yelling, thieves lurking, and you, a nobody, trying not to get trampled. Remember that garlic floor nonsense? You'd take scrubbing with that over this madness any day. You weave through Rome's streets, the air thick with dust, sweat, and the tang of roasted meat from street vendors. The Forum's a riot of color and noise, stalls piled with figs, fish, and bolts of cloth, while hawkers shout deals like they're auditioning for a tragedy. You stick to the edges, eyes sharp for pickpockets. One bump and those coins are gone, along with any chance of sleeping without bruises. You mutter, "If I survive this, I deserve a statue." Fat chance, Rome doesn't carve marble for slaves. Your sandals, thin as parchment, slap the stones, and every step jolts your aching knees. Mainstream history paints the Roman Forum as the empire's pulsing core, where trade, politics, and gossip collided daily. Think Wall Street meets a county fair, but with togas. You're here for practical stuff. Olive oil, lentils, maybe some herbs if the cook's feeling fancy. A quirky tidbit? Romans used lead to sweeten cheap lein, poisoning themselves for a buzz. You're dodging those wine stalls, though. One whiff of a drunk's breath could knock you out. Historians still argue whether slaves like you ever haggled for better prices, or just took what was offered, too scared to push back. You approach a stall. Its merchant a wiry man with a grin like he's already cheated you. "Oil, best in Rome," he barks, waving a clay amphora. You hand over a coin, praying it's enough. He squints, then pours a sluggish stream into your jug. It's probably cut with something shady, but you're not arguing. Slaves don't get to play consumer advocate. Next, you grab a sack of lentils, their weight tugging your basket. A cart rumbles by, its driver cursing as chickens squawk from cages. You jump back, narrowly avoiding a wheel. Ever feel like the universe is personally out to get you? Welcome to your morning. You glide past, their silk stolas shimmering, their laughter sharp. You keep your head down, but one glances your way, nose wrinkled like you're a stray dog. You're invisible until you're not, and that's when trouble starts. You spot Mira across the forum, hauling a bundle of cloth for the villa. She flashes a weary grin, and you nod back. Your secret club of the perpetually screwed. You'd chat, but a loiterer's getting too close, eyeing your basket. You shift it to your other arm and hustle to the herb stall, where basil and dill cost more than your life's worth. The vendor's distracted, so you slip an extra sprig into your basket. Rebel move? Maybe. You're not stealing, just redistributing. The coins are nearly spent, and your basket's heavy as a bad conscience. The forum's still roaring, but you've got to get back before the domina notices you're gone too long. A street performer juggles torches, drawing cheers. You pause for half a second, craving that spark of joy. Then turn away. Joy's for free people. The villa's waiting, and so's the next task. You trudge back, the city's pulse fading behind you, wondering if you'll ever see the forum as anything but a gauntlet. You're back in the villa's kitchen, the forum's chaos still buzzing in your head like a swarm of bees. The basket of supplies, oil, lentils, that sneaky sprig of dill, sits on the counter, and you're praying the cook doesn't notice your tiny rebellion. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and the day's only half done, but your body's screaming like it's been through a chariot race. The kitchen's a furnace, heat rolling off the hearth where a pot simmers with something that smells suspiciously like yesterday's leftovers. Your job now? Cook a meal for the Dominus Senator guests tonight, using scraps that wouldn't impress a stray cat. One wrong flavor, and you're not just eating regret, you're wearing it. Remember that lead-spiked wine from the market? You're half tempted to slip some into the stew, just to see if anyone notices. You grab a knife, its blade duller than a politician's speech, and start chopping onions from the basket. Your eyes sting, tears mixing with sweat, but you keep at it. The cook, a sour-faced woman named Flavia, hovers nearby, barking orders like she's commanding a legion. "More garlic, less daydreaming," she snaps. You nod, biting back a retort. Garlic's supposed to ward off spirits, right? Maybe it'll keep Flavia at bay. You toss in a clove, then stir the pot. Lentils, a sad carrot, and a bone that's seen better days. This is stew for the slaves, not the guests. The elite get dormice and peacock tongues because apparently normal food's beneath them. Mainstream history tells us Roman cuisine was a status symbol. Lavish banquets showcased wealth, while slaves like you ate gruel or scraps. Your meal prep is a high-stakes balancing act. Satisfy the dominus palate or face her wrath. A quirky tidbit? Romans used crocodile dung as a contraceptive, ground into a paste. You're not sure if it worked, but you're glad it's not on the menu. Historians still argue whether slaves ever sabotaged meals as quiet revenge, spitting in the soup or accidentally burning the bread. You're tempted, but Flavia's watching like a hawk with a grudge. The onions are done, and you move to grinding spices, your wrist aching as the mortar scrapes. The dill you nabbed adds a faint brightness to the guest's sauce, a garum-heavy mess that smells like fishy regret. You stir it, dodging splashes. Ever burn your hand on a hot pot and have to smile through the pain? That's your life. Grit and grin. The kitchen's crowded now, other slaves rushing in with trays and jugs. Mira pops in, balancing a stack of plates. "Flavia's on a rampage," she whispers. You roll your eyes. When's she not? It's your daily comedy routine, minus the laughs. Flavia snaps again, pointing to a loaf you baked earlier. "Slice it thin, girl, or I'll have you scrubbing pots till dawn." You grab the bread, its crust hard as your luck, and start cutting. A crumb falls, and you snatch it up, popping it in your mouth. It's dry, but it's food, and you're starving. The Dominus peacock struts by the doorway, squawking like it's mocking your hunger. You imagine roasting it instead of the dormice. Dream on. Steal a feather, and you're done for. The stew's simmering now, and you ladle it into bowls for the slaves' dinner. It's thin, but it'll keep you alive. Barely. The guest meal's almost ready, and you're arranging platters with shaky hands. Flavia inspects your work, her lips pursed like she's sucking a lemon. "Passable," she grunts, which is as close to praise as you'll get. You exhale, but the knot in your chest stays. The banquet's in a few hours, and you'll be serving, dodging drunken senators and the Domina's glare. For now, you steal a sip of water from a jug, its coolness a fleeting mercy. The kitchen clock's ticking. Well, not literally, but every second feels like a countdown to the next crisis. You're surviving, but at what cost? You're still in the villa, the kitchen's heat clinging to you like a bad memory, but now you're out of the fire and into a different kind of chaos. The Dominus children, a pair of spoiled terrors named Gaius and Livia, are your new assignment. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and if you thought scrubbing floors or dodging Flavia's wrath was tough, try keeping these two from turning the villa into a circus. The sun's dipping, casting long shadows across the atrium, and you're chasing Gaius, who's waving a wooden sword like he's Caesar reincarnated. Livia's tugging at your tunic, demanding you braid her hair like Mama's. Your patience is thinner than the gruel you ate earlier, and you're muttering, "If I survive these kids, I deserve a temple." Spoiler, you're not getting one. Gaius, maybe 8, lunges at a pillar, shouting about slaying barbarians. You grab his arm before he topples a vase that costs more than your life. "Easy, little general," you say, forcing a smile. He scowls, but you steer him toward the garden, where he can't break anything irreplaceable. Livia, 6 and bossy, plops onto a bench and thrusts a comb at you. "Now," she barks. You kneel, your knees groaning from this morning's mosaic marathon. Remember those nymphs mocking you? You start braiding, your fingers clumsy from exhaustion. Livia whines when you tug too hard. Ever try wrangling a toddler while running on fumes? Multiply that by 10. Mainstream history notes that Roman children of the elite were often raised by slaves, especially women like you, who served as nursemaids or pedagogues, shaping young minds while having no say in your own life. A quirky tidbit? Roman kids played with terracotta dolls, some with jointed limbs, creepy little things you're glad Livia's not clutching. Historians still argue whether slaves like you formed genuine bonds with the children you raised, or just faked affection to avoid punishment. You're leaning toward faking it right now, especially when Gaius flings dirt at you, cackling. You finish Livia's braid, a lopsided mess she'll probably tattle about. "It's perfect," you lie, hoping she buys it. She pouts, but scampers off to show her mother, leaving you with Gaius, who's now hunting an imaginary lion. You trail him, dodging rose bushes the Domina would skin you for touching. The garden's quiet, save for his war cries and the distant clatter of banquet prep. You spot Mira hauling linens across the courtyard and flash her a look that says, "Save me." She smirks. She's been here too. The overseer's nowhere in sight, a rare mercy, but you're still on edge. One tantrum from these kids, and it's your fault. Gaius tires himself out, slumping onto a bench. You seize the chance to sit, your legs thanking you like you've granted them a holiday. "Tell me a story," he demands, and you scramble for something that won't bore him or get you in trouble. You spin a tale about a clever slave who outwits a monster, keeping it vague so he doesn't ask if it's you. He laughs, and for a second, you almost like him. Almost. Livia's back, whining about her braid falling. You fix it, swallowing a sigh. Ever wonder if kids are secretly training for the Senate with all this bossing around? You're calling it now. The Domina's voice cuts through the garden, summoning the kids for their dinner. You heard them inside, Gaius dragging his sword, Livia skipping like she didn't just make your life hell. You're not invited to their meal, of course. Your dinner's whatever's left after the banquet, if you're lucky. The atrium's buzzing now, slaves rushing to set up for the senator's feast. You're due in the kitchen soon, but for one blissful moment, you lean against a pillar, stealing a breath. The kids are gone, but the day's not done. You're surviving, barely, and the night's about to test you all over again. You're out of the garden now. The Domina's bratty kids finally someone else's problem. But the villa's relentless pace doesn't give you a second to breathe. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and your next task is in the weaving room, a dim, stuffy corner of the house where the air smells of wool and despair. The loom's waiting, its wooden frame looming like a judge, and you're expected to churn out cloth for the household, tunics, cloaks, maybe a fancy stola for the Domina if you're lucky. Your fingers are already raw from braiding Livia's hair, and now they're about to get a workout that makes scrubbing mosaics feel like a spa day. Remember that dirt-flinging Gaius? You'd rather dodge his sword again than face this grind. If I weave my way out of this life, it'll be a miracle, you mutter, half joking, fully doomed. You settle at the loom, the shuttle's weight familiar in your hand. The wool's coarse, dyed a dull blue that'll probably end up as a slave's tunic, maybe even yours. You start the rhythm, thread over, shuttle through, pull tight. It's hypnotic, but not in a good way. It's the kind of trance that makes your eyes cross and your back scream. The room's lit by a single oil lamp, its flicker casting shadows that dance like they're mocking your effort. You're not alone. Mira's at another loom, her hands flying faster than yours. She shoots you a look that says, "This is our life now." You nod, too tired for words. Mainstream history tells us weaving was a cornerstone of Roman domestic life, often handled by female slaves or freedwomen, producing everything from sails to senators' togas. The average household needed miles of fabric, and you're the unpaid machine keeping it stocked. A quirky tidbit? Romans sometimes used spider silk for ultrafine garments, though you're stuck with sheep's wool that smells like it's still mad about being sheared. Historians still argue whether slaves like you found any satisfaction in skilled tasks like weaving, or just saw it as another shackle. Right now, you're Team Shackle. Your fingers are cramping and the shuttle's stuck again. You tug the thread, cursing under your breath when it snaps. Mira snickers, and you shoot her a mock glare. Laugh it up, "You're next," you whisper. She smirks, but you both know the truth. One mistake, and the overseer's stick will sing. You rethread the loom, your movements slower now, each pull a test of willpower. The wool's flecked with grit, pricking your skin like tiny accusations. Ever try knitting with a deadline and a whip waiting? This is worse. You imagine weaving a secret message into the cloth, something like, "Help, I'm trapped." Too bad no one's reading. The lamp's oil is burning low, and the room's getting stuffier. You wipe sweat from your brow, smearing blue dye across your forehead. Great, now you look like a budget druid. Mira notices and stifles a laugh, but you're too focused to care. The cloth's growing, inch by agonizing inch, but it's nowhere near enough for the Domina's quota. She'll want a new curtain by tomorrow, because apparently her life depends on shading her precious peacock. You push through, your shoulders knotting tighter than the weave. Outside, you hear the banquet prep ramping up, clinking plates, Flavia's shouts. You're due there soon, but first, you've got to survive this thread purgatory. Mira finishes her piece and stretches, her loom silent. Trade you for kitchen duty? She teases. You snort. Only if Flavia's gone soft. Fat chance. She's probably yelling at the lentils right now. You're almost done. The cloth taut and even, but your hands are shaking. You tie off the last thread, praying it passes inspection. The overseer pokes his head in, his stick tapping like a countdown. He grunts at your work and moves on. A rare win. You slump, stealing a moment to rub your aching wrists. The loom's quiet, but the night's not. The banquet's calling, and you're about to trade one grind for another. You've dragged yourself from the weaving room, your fingers still throbbing from the loom's relentless grip. And now you're in the slave quarters, a cramped, musty corner of the villa where you and the others collapse at night. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and this is the closest thing you get to a break. Just a fleeting moment before the banquet prep swallows you whole. The air's thick with the smell of sweat and straw, and the flicker of a single oil lamp throws shadows across the rough plaster walls. You're sitting on a lumpy pallet, Mira beside you, both of you too tired to do more than whisper. The other slaves are here too, their voices low, weaving a thread of something dangerous. Gossip, rumors, maybe even rebellion. Remember that snapped thread at the loom? This conversation feels just as risky, like one wrong word could unravel everything. You lean against the wall, its coolness a small mercy against your aching back. Mira's picking at a splinter in her hand, muttering about Flavia's latest tantrum. "She threw a spoon at me," she says, half laughing. You snort. Better than the Domina's peacock aiming for your head. The room hums with quiet chatter. Someone's complaining about the overseer, another's joking about stealing wine from the banquet. But then a voice, barely audible, cuts through. "They did it in Capua. Ran, all of them." Your ears prick. Rebellion. The words a spark in dry grass, and you glance around, heart thumping. Who said it? You can't tell, but the idea's alive now, flickering in the dark. Mainstream history records that slave revolts were rare but explosive in Rome. Think Spartacus, whose rebellion shook the Republic decades ago, though you're living centuries later, around 100 CE. Smaller uprisings happened too, often crushed before they spread. A quirky tidbit? Some slaves marked their defiance with secret symbols, like scratched fish shapes in walls, maybe tied to early Christians, or just coded cries for freedom. Historians still argue whether domestic slaves like you ever joined these plots, or were too scared, too watched to try. You're scared, no question, but the thought of running? It's a drug you can't quite shake. The speaker's gone quiet, and the room's back to safer gripes, sore feet, bad porridge. You nudge Mira. Ever think about it? Bolting? She hesitates, then shakes her head. Where to? They'd hunt us like dogs. She's right. Rome's got eyes everywhere. Informants, soldiers, even other slaves desperate for a reward. Still, you imagine it. Slipping out at midnight, the city's walls fading behind you. Ever daydream about ditching a dead-end job, knowing you'd crash and burn? This is that, but with chains. You push the thought down, but it's there, gnawing like hunger. A new voice pipes up, an older slave named Tiro, his face lined like a map of bad years. He heard the master's buying more land, he says. Means more work, more of us. You groan. Great, more bodies to crowd this already stifling room. But Tiro's hinting at something else. New slaves might mean new ideas.
You're not sure if that's hope or trouble. Mira yawns, her head drooping. "Let's just survive tonight," she mumbles. Fair point. The banquet's looming, and you'll be dodging senators' hands and Flavia's spoons soon enough. The lamp's flickering out, and the overseer's boots thud nearby. Time's up. You stand, your legs protesting, and file out with the others. The rebellion talk's gone silent, but it's left a mark, like a bruise you can't see. You're back in the kitchen's chaos next, trays and orders waiting. Mira bumps your shoulder, a silent, "We're in this together." You nod, but your mind's still in the quarters, replaying that whisper about Capua. Freedom's a ghost, haunting you as you step back into the grind. The night's young, and survival's still a coin toss. You're out of the slave quarters now, the whispers of rebellion still tingling in your ears like a forbidden song. But the villa's demands don't care about your daydreams. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and tonight's the big banquet, a senator-packed affair that's got the whole household buzzing like a kicked beehive. For you, though, it's just another gauntlet. Except this time, it's Saturnalia season, the festival where Romans flip the script, letting slaves dine with masters for a night. Sounds fun, right? Wrong. You're still working, hauling trays while the elite play at equality. The air's thick with wine and
Roasted meat, and you're dodging drunken laughs and the domina's glare. Remember that Capua whisper? Freedom feels further away than ever as you glimpse the festival's joys you can't touch. "If I survive this party, I'm naming a star after myself," you mutter, knowing the only stars you'll see are the ones from exhaustion. You're in the triclinium, balancing a tray of figs and honeyed dormice. Yes, actual mice, because Romans are extra. The room's a riot of color. Frescoes glow under torchlight, and the guests, draped in silks, recline on couches, laughing louder than necessary. You set the tray down, careful not to spill a drop. The domina's watching from her couch, her peacock perched nearby like a feathered spy. One senator, red-faced from wine, grabs a fig and leers at you. You step back, eyes on the floor. Ever feel like you're a prop in someone else's play? That's Saturnalia for you. Freedom's a tease, and you're still the punchline. Mainstream history tells us Saturnalia, held in mid-December, was Rome's wildest festival, a week of feasting, gift-giving, and role reversals, where masters sometimes served slaves. But for most slaves like you, it was just extra work with a side of resentment. A quirky tidbit? Romans wore silly conical hats called pilae during Saturnalia, symbols of freedom, but you're not getting one. Your head's bare and your hands are full. Historians still argue whether slaves felt any real joy during these festivals, or just gritted their teeth through the mockery of equality. You're definitely gritting, especially when a guest spills wine and blames you. You weave through the crowd, refilling goblets with that lead-sweetened wine you dodged at the market. A guest shouts, "Io Saturnalia," and everyone cheers, but you're too busy to flinch. Mira's across the room, serving bread, and you catch her eye. She looks as thrilled as you feel. "Bet they let the peacock eat before us," you whisper when she passes. She snorts, nearly dropping her tray. The domina snaps her fingers, and you're back at her side, pouring water into her cup. Her stola's embroidered with gold, and you wonder how many hours of weaving, your weaving, went into it. Ever want to accidentally spill something on a boss? Tempting, but you'd pay in blood. The music's loud now, a lyre and flute duo playing something upbeat. Guests are dancing, or trying to, their togas slipping. You're supposed to stay invisible, but a senator grabs your arm, slurring about joining the fun. You mumble an excuse and slip away, heart racing. The festival's freedom doesn't mean safety, not for you. You retreat to the kitchen for more trays, where Flavia's yelling about undercooked fish. You grab a platter of olives and head back, the triclinium's noise hitting you like a wave. Saturnalia's glow is for them,
not you. You're just the hands keeping it lit. The night drags, and your feet ache like they're staging a revolt. You steal a glance at the stars through a window, their cold light a reminder of the world beyond this villa. The rebellion talk from the quarters feels like a dream now, drowned by the clink of goblets and the domina's orders. You're surviving, but each tray you carry feels heavier, each smile you fake a little harder. The festival's still raging, and you're nowhere near done. Mira bumps your shoulder as you pass, a silent lifeline. You nod, clinging to that spark as you dive back into the chaos. You're finally out of the triclinium's suffocating revelry, the echoes of Saturnalia's forced cheer fading as you're sent on a new task, cleaning the public baths down the street. You're a part of a female slave in ancient Rome, and the chance to escape the villa, even for an hour, feels like a gift from the gods. The night air is crisp, a sharp contrast to the banquet's heat, and you're clutching a broom and a bucket, your tunic damp with sweat. The baths are a sprawling complex of marble and steam, where Romans soak their cares away, but for you, it's just another floor to scrub. Your feet ache from dodging senators all night. Remember that leering drunk? This is better, but not by much. If I survive these tiles, I'm retiring to a cave, you mutter, knowing the only cave you'll see is the one in your dreams.
You step into the caldarium, the hot bathroom, where steam curls like ghosts and the air smells of lavender and wet stone. The mosaic floor gleams, sea creatures twisting in blues and greens, but it's speckled with dirt and stray sandals. You start sweeping, the broom's bristles scratching your palms, already raw from the loom. The heat wraps around you, loosening your knotted shoulders, and for a moment you pause, letting the warmth sink in. It's a stolen luxury, like that dill sprig you nabbed at the market. You close your eyes, imagining you're a patrician, soaking without a care. Ever sneak a 5-minute break and feel like you've cheated fate? That's you, until the overseer's shadow looms. Mainstream history tells us Roman baths were engineering marvels, with aqueducts and hypocaust systems heating water for thousands daily. A social hub for all classes, though slaves like you were there to clean, not relax. A quirky tidbit? Romans used strigils, curved metal tools, to scrape off sweat and oil, leaving piles of grime for you to sweep. Historians still argue whether slaves ever used the baths themselves, sneaking dips when no one was looking, or if the risk was too high. You're tempted, but the overseer's nearby, his stick tapping like a metronome of doom. You move to the tepidarium, the warm room, where the air's gentler but the floor's no cleaner. You scrub a stubborn stain, your knees protesting. Those mosaics from the villa are haunting you here too. The bath's empty now, its usual crowd of gossiping elites gone, leaving only echoes and your broom's scrape. You spot a forgotten strigil by a bench and pick it up, its curve cool in your hand. For a second, you consider keeping it, sell it maybe, but that's a one-way ticket to a whipping. You toss it into a corner, muttering, "Nice try, universe." The gods love their cruel jokes, don't they? Mira's voice hisses from the doorway. Hurry up, he's circling. She's on bucket duty, her arms slick with soap. You flash her a tired grin, your partner in this endless grind. Bet he bathes in wine, you whisper, and she stifles a laugh. You speed up, sweeping dust into piles, your movements mechanical. The bath's beauty, marble columns, vaulted ceilings, means nothing when you're its mule. You think of the banquet, the dominus peacock strutting while you slaved. Here, at least, it's quiet, save for the drip of water and Mira's soft humming. You'd kill for her optimism, but you're running on spite and stolen warmth. You finish the floor, its mosaics gleaming like they're mocking your effort. You dunk your rag in Mira's bucket, wiping down benches, the soap's bite stinging your cracked hands. The overseer passes, grunting approval, a miracle. You and Mira exchange a look. Small win, big cost. You steal one last moment in the caldarium, letting steam kiss your face before the cold night claims you. Back to the villa soon. Back to the grind. The baths are clean, but you're filthier than ever, inside and out. Survival's your only prize, and it's heavier than that bucket you're carrying. You're trudging back from the baths, the night air sharp against your steam-damp skin, but there's no time to savor the chill. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and the villa's endless demands are calling you back to its walls. Your broom and bucket are stashed, but your hands still feel the ghost of their weight, just like your heart carries the ghost of that rebellion talk from the slave quarters. Now you're sent to the household shrine, a small alcove tucked in the atrium, to clean the altars and offer a prayer to Juno, goddess of women and marriage. It's a cruel irony, praying to a deity who's supposed to protect you when your life's a daily proof she's not listening. Remember that stolen moment in the caldarium steam? This feels like its opposite, cold, hollow, and heavy with questions about freedom. If Juno's got my back, she's got a funny way of showing it, you mutter, half expecting a thunderbolt for the sass. The shrine's lit by a single oil lamp, its flame dancing over a marble statue of Juno, her carved eyes staring through you. The altar's cluttered with wax tablets, wilted flowers, and a tiny silver dove, offerings from the domina, who's all piety when it suits her. You kneel, your knees screaming from days of scrubbing, and start wiping the altar with a damp rag. Dust and ash cling to the stone, remnants of incense burned for Lucius's business deals. You're careful not to knock over the dove.
So, salmon does have iron in it, but it's not a lot. There's better sources of iron. For you, it's just another chore, though the act of praying feels like a taunt. A quirky tidbit? Romans sometimes offered honey cakes to gods, believing they had a sweet tooth. Juno's altar has crumbs, but you're not tasting them. Historians still argue whether slaves like you found comfort in these rituals, or saw them as another master's whim. You're leaning toward whim, but as you light a stick of incense, its cedar scent softens the edge of your cynicism just a bit. You murmur the prayer, words the domina drilled into you. Juno, guard this house, guide its women. You pause, adding a silent plea, and if you're listening, how about a way out? The statue's silent, no surprise. You think of the Capua rumor, slaves who ran. Could Juno approve of that, or is she just another overseer in the sky? Your rag moves faster, polishing the altar's edges, but your mind's on freedom, a word that feels like a bruise. The lamp flickers, and you wonder if it's a sign or just bad oil. Probably the oil. Gods don't chat with slaves. Mira passes by, hauling a basket of linens, and whispers, "Don't pray too hard, she might notice us." You smirk, appreciating the gallows humor. "Too late, I asked for a villa," you reply, and she stifles a laugh. The atrium's quiet now, the banquet's chaos winding down, but the domina's peacock struts past, its tail feathers brushing the floor like it owns the shrine too. You resist the urge to shoo it. Last slave who tried got a week of cellar duty. You finish cleaning, the altar gleaming, and stand, your back creaking like old wood. The prayer's done, but it feels like shouting into a void. You linger a moment, staring at Juno's face. Freedom's a dream you can't afford, but here, in this flicker of lamplight, you let yourself imagine it. No overseer, no loom, no domina's glare. The fantasy's cut short by Flavia's distant yell. Kitchen duty calls. You snuff the incense, its smoke curling like a promise Juno won't keep. Mira's gone, and the shrine's empty again, just you and a goddess who doesn't answer. You head out, the weight of the day heavier than ever, survival your only prayer now. You're out of the shrine now, Juno's unblinking statue and its empty promises left behind, but the villa's grip on you is as tight as ever. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and the day's been a relentless churn of tasks, baths, looms, bratty kids, and festival chaos.
Now you've messed up. A tray of clay cups you were carrying to the kitchen slipped, and one shattered, its shards glinting on the floor like your shattered hopes of a quiet night. The overseer's already on you, his stick raised, and you're bracing for the whip's sting, your heart hammering like it's trying to escape your chest. Remember that prayer to Juno? Seems she's on the Domina side. If I survive this, I'm done with clay anything, you mutter, but the overseer's not in the mood for your sarcasm. You're in the courtyard, the same one where you hauled water at dawn, its mosaics now a cruel backdrop to your punishment. The overseer, a man whose face looks carved from stone, grabs your arm, his grip bruising. "Careless," he barks, and before you can stammer an excuse, the whip cracks across your back. It's not the full lash. Lucius doesn't want you too damaged to work, but it burns like fire, stealing your breath. You bite your lip, refusing to cry out. The other slaves keep their heads down, Mira among them, her eyes flicking to you with helpless pity. Ever take a hit for a tiny mistake and wonder why the world's so unfair? That's your life, dialed to 11. Mainstream history confirms that corporal punishment was standard for Roman slaves. Whips, sticks, or worse for infractions as small as a broken dish. The law saw you as property, and discipline was the master's right. A quirky tidbit? Some Romans used whipping boys, slaves punished in place of elite children to teach them lessons. Glad you're not one, but it's cold comfort. Historians still argue whether slaves internalized this violence as normal or quietly nurtured hatred with every blow. You're nurturing something all right. Rage, fear, and a stubborn spark that won't quit, even as the second lash lands.
The overseer stops at 2, muttering about your lucky day. You're trembling, the pain pulsing, but you nod, eyes on the ground. He orders you to clean the shards, and you kneel, your hands shaking as you gather the pieces. The courtyard's quiet, save for the distant clink of banquet cleanup. You're hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow, expecting another strike. Mira edges closer, pretending to adjust a bucket, and whispers, "You okay?" You manage a tight nod, but okay is a lie. Your back's screaming, and your pride's taken a bigger hit. You imagine tossing a shard at the overseer's head, satisfying but suicidal. Instead, you stack the pieces, your fingers nicked by their edges. The Domina sweeps by, her stola brushing the mosaics, her peacock trailing like a feathered shadow. She doesn't even glance at you, but her voice cuts. "See it doesn't happen again." You mumble, "Yes, Domina," though you want to scream. Her indifference stings worse than the whip somehow. Ever feel like you're invisible until you screw up? That's her power, and she wields it like a blade. You finish cleaning, the shards dumped in a bin, and the overseer grunts, dismissing you to the kitchen. Your back throbs with every step, but you move fast. Hesitation invites more trouble. In the kitchen, Flavia's too busy cursing a burnt loaf to notice your wince as you lift a water jug. Mira slips you a scrap of cloth to press against your back, a silent act of rebellion against this place. You flash her a grateful look, your lifeline in this grind. The whip's left its mark, but so has that Capua rumor from the quarters. Freedom's a ghost, but it's haunting you harder now. You're sent to fetch more wood next, each movement a reminder of your place. Survival's your only weapon, and you're clutching it tight, even as the pain tries to break you. You're limping away from the courtyard, the whip's sting still searing your back, but the villa's grind doesn't pause for your pain. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and now you're tasked with carrying the master's scrolls to his tablinum, the study where Lucius conducts his oh-so-important business. The scrolls are parchment, heavy with ink and wax seals, and you're clutching them like they're made of glass. Your hands tremble, not just from the weight, but from the fear of dropping one. After that shattered cup, another mistake could mean more than a whip. You're weaving through the atrium, the Domina's peacock eyeing you like it knows you're doomed. Remember that Capua rebellion whisper? It's flickering in your mind, but right now you're just trying to survive this errand. If I make it through this, I'm writing my own epic, you mutter, though the only epic you're living is one of exhaustion. The tablinum's a small room off the atrium, its walls lined with shelves of scrolls and a desk cluttered with bronze styluses. Lucius is there, hunched over a tablet, muttering about grain prices. You set the scrolls down, careful not to smudge the wax. He doesn't look up. You're as invisible as the dust you swept this morning. The scrolls are letters, contracts, maybe a poem or two, all in Latin you'll never read. Literacy's a luxury for the free, and you're locked out, though you've memorized the shapes of some words from watching Lucius. Ever stare at a locked door and wonder what's behind it? That's you, yearning for the power of those squiggles, knowing mainstream history tells us literacy was rare among Roman slaves, especially women, with only a few trained as scribes or secretaries for elite households. You're not one of them. Your world is labor, not letters. A quirky tidbit. Romans used shorthand systems like Tyrrhonian notes, invented by Cicero's slave Tiro, to jot down speeches. You're not jotting anything, just carrying the tools of a world you'll never join. Historians still argue whether slaves like you craved literacy for its own sake, or just saw it as a ticket to less brutal work. You'd take either, but right now you're just praying Lucius doesn't notice the sweat you're leaving on his precious parchment. You arrange the scrolls, your back throbbing from the whip's marks. Those lashes haven't faded, and every move is a reminder. Lucius mutters something about a late shipment, and you catch a word, manumission, freedom. Your heart skips, but it's not about you. He's discussing a freedman's debt. You swallow the pang and step back, eyes on the floor. Ever overhear a conversation that feels like a tease? That's this, a glimpse of a world where freedom's real, but not for you. You imagine sneaking a scroll, teaching yourself to read by lamplight. Pure fantasy.
Mira slips in, carrying a tray of wine for Lucius. She catches your eye, her face saying, "Hang in there." You nod, a silent pact. The domina's peacock struts by the door, squawking like it's mocking your dreams. You'd laugh if it didn't hurt. Imagine teaching that bird to read before you get the chance. Lucius waves you off, and you slip out, the scrolls safe, your heart heavy. You're sent to the kitchen next, but those letters linger, a locked door you can't open. The Capua rumor stirs again. Maybe freedom's not in ink, but in running. For now, you're just surviving, one painful step at a time. You're out of the tablinum, the weight of those unreadable scrolls still heavy in your mind. But there's no time to dwell on locked doors like literacy. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and the villa's demands have yanked you from its walls to a new kind of hell, the countryside estate, where Lucius owns sprawling fields of wheat and olives. You're sent to help with the harvest, a grueling shift from scrubbing mosaics or dodging the domina's peacock. The sun's a merciless hammer beating down on the dusty fields, and your tunic's already soaked with sweat. Your back's still raw from the whip. Those lashes from the broken cup haven't faded, and every step jostles the pain. Remember that Capua rebellion whisper? It's a faint echo out here, drowned by the cicadas and your own panting. "If I survive this harvest, I'm growing wings," you mutter, though the only wings you're getting are the flies buzzing around you. You're handed a sickle, its blade dull but heavy, and told to cut wheat alongside a dozen other slaves, their faces as grim as yours. The stalks are tough, scratching your arms, and the dust clogs your throat. You swing the sickle, each slice a test of endurance, your hands blistered from yesterday's loom. The overseer's here too, a different one, his whip coiled like a snake. He barks, "Faster!" and you grit your teeth, hacking at the wheat like it's personally offended you. Ever do a job so brutal you forget what your body feels like without pain? That's you, knee-deep in stalks,
praying for dusk. Mainstream history tells us Roman agriculture relied on slave labor, with vast estates, latifundia, worked by thousands, often in chain gangs for the unlucky. You're not chained, but the work's no less crushing, especially for women, who were often pulled from domestic tasks for seasonal labor. A quirky tidbit? Romans used to sprinkle salt on fields as a fertilizer, thinking it boosted crops. Good luck explaining that to the soil. Historians still argue whether rural slaves like you had more chances to escape than urban ones, with open fields tempting but patrolled by guards. Escape's a fantasy right now. You're too busy not collapsing. You pause to wipe sweat from your eyes, and the overseer's glare pins you. You swing the sickle again, faster, though your arms scream. Another slave, a wiry man named Cato, mutters nearby, "They'll work us till we're dust." You nod, too parched to reply. Mira's not here. She's back at the villa, probably cursing Flavia's spoons. You miss her banter. It's the only thing keeping you sane. The wheat's endless, stretching to the horizon, and you imagine running through it, vanishing into the hills. Then you spot the guards, their spears glinting. So much for that plan. Ever dream of freedom but get slapped by reality? That's your view right now. A woman stumbles nearby, her bundle of wheat spilling. The overseer's on her in a flash, his whip cracking. You flinch, your own welts throbbing in sympathy, and keep cutting. The sun's climbing, no shade in sight, and your throat's a desert. Water's rationed, and you've got hours before a sip. You think of the Domina's peacock, probably sipping from a gilded bowl. If you weren't so tired, you'd laugh. Imagine swapping places with that bird. Instead, you hack another stalk, your blisters popping. Cato tosses you a grim smile, a flicker of solidarity. It's not much, but it's enough to keep you moving. The day drags, your pile of wheat growing, but never fast enough. The overseer shouts quotas, numbers you can't fathom, and you push harder, your body a machine running on spite. The Capua rumor creeps back, slaves who ran. Out here, it feels possible, then impossible. You're sent to bundle stocks next, your fingers fumbling with twine. Dusk is hours away, and the villa's waiting after this. Survival's your only harvest, and it's as bitter as the dust in your mouth.
You're back in the villa. The countryside's brutal harvest left behind, but its dust still clings to your skin, and your blisters pulse like a cruel reminder of the fields. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and now you're thrust into a rare role, assisting a midwife for a slave woman giving birth in the quarters. The air's heavy with sweat and fear, and you're kneeling beside a pallet, holding the hand of a woman named Clodia, whose groans fill the dim room. Your back still raw from the whip, your hands sore from the sickle, but this task feels different, urgent, human, a flicker of purpose in your endless grind. Remember that Capua rebellion whisper? It's buried under Clodia's pain, but the idea of new life sparks a strange hope. "If I survive this night, I'm calling it magic," you mutter, though the only magic here is Clodia's strength. The midwife, an older slave named Sura, barks orders. "Water, now! Clean cloths!" You scramble, fetching a jug from a corner, your movements clumsy but quick. The corridors are cramped, straw pallets pressed against walls, and the oil lamp's flicker casts shadows that dance like worried spirits. Clodia's grip on your hand is iron, her face slick with sweat. You murmur, "You've got this," though you're not sure she hears. Sora's hands move with practiced calm, her voice steady despite the chaos. You're in awe. She's no patrician healer, but she knows more than any fancy physician. Ever see someone turn fear into focus? That's Sora, and you're just trying to keep up. Mainstream history tells us childbirth in Rome was perilous, with high mortality for mothers and infants, especially among slaves who lacked access to elite doctors.
Female slaves like Sura often trained as midwives, their skills passed down in secret, a quiet power in a world that gave them none. A quirky tidbit? Romans believed amulets shaped like frogs could ease labor pains. Clodia's got no amulet, just you and Sura. Historians still argue whether slave midwives were valued for their expertise or punished for wielding knowledge masters feared. You're betting on fear, but right now, Sura's skill is Clodia's lifeline. You hand Sura a cloth, your fingers brushing hers, and she nods, a rare acknowledgement. Clodia cries out, and you squeeze her hand, wishing you could absorb her pain. The room feels smaller, the air thicker, as Sura coaches Clodia to push. You're no stranger to suffering, but this is raw, primal, and you're fighting tears. Ever feel helpless but keep going because someone's counting on you? That's you, whispering encouragement, though your throat's tight. Outside, the villa hums with banquet cleanup, the Dominus peacock probably strutting like nothing's wrong. You'd trade it for Clodia's courage in a heartbeat. The baby comes, a girl, tiny and squalling, her cry cutting through the tension like a blade. Sura wraps her in a scrap of cloth, handing her to Clodia, who's weeping with relief. You exhale, your chest loosening, and wipe sweat from your brow. Sura mutters a prayer to Diana, goddess of childbirth, and you echo it silently, though Juno's silence still stings. The lamp's burning low, and you fetch more oil, your hands steadier now. Clodia names the baby Livia, a bittersweet nod to the Domina's daughter. You smile, but it hurts. Will this child inherit your chains? The Capua rumor stirs. Maybe she'll know freedom you won't. Sura dismisses you. Your part's done. You step into the courtyard, the night air cool against your flushed skin. Mira's there, hauling firewood, and catches your eye. Heard the cry. Good work, she whispers. You nod, too drained to speak. The overseer's shadow looms nearby, so you hurry to the kitchen, your next task waiting. Clodia's strength, Sura's skill, there's sparks in the dark, but the villa's grind is relentless. You carry Livia's cry with you, a fragile hope against the weight of survival.
You're back in the villa's triclinium, the glow of Clodia's newborn still warm in your chest, but there's no time to linger on hope. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and the banquet's in full swing again, a second night of senators gorging on dormice and garum while you play invisible hands. The air's thick with wine, perfume, and the oily smoke of torches, and you're weaving through reclining guests, balancing a tray of roasted figs and spiced wine. Your back's a map of pain from the whip, your hands raw from the harvest, but dropping this tray isn't an option. Remember that shattered cup? Another mistake, and you're done. The Domina's peacock struts nearby, its feathers brushing your leg like a taunt. If I survive this feast, I'm opening a fig stand, you mutter, though the only thing you're opening is more work. You set the tray on a low table, dodging a senator's flailing arm as he toasts to Jupiter. The guests are louder now, their togas slipping, their laughs sharp as knives. You're a shadow to them, refilling goblets, clearing plates, your presence erased unless you falter. The Domina lounges at the head, her eyes flicking over you like you're a smudge on her mosaic. You keep moving, your feet screaming in your thin sandals. Ever work a party where you're the help, not the guest? Multiply that by 1,000, add a whip, and you're here, serving Rome's elite while they ignore your existence. Mainstream history tells us Roman banquets were displays of power, with lavish dishes and entertainment to flex wealth. Slaves like you were the unseen engine, ensuring every course was flawless. A quirky tidbit? Romans sometimes hired nomenclators, slaves who whispered guests' names to hosts, because apparently remembering people was too hard.
You're no nomenclator, just a pair of hands, though you'd love to forget a senator's wine order. Historians still argue whether slaves ever poisoned dishes as revenge, or if fear kept you in line. You're too tired to plot, but the thought of spiking the garum with extra fish guts is tempting. Mira's across the room, hauling a jug of water, her face a mirror of your exhaustion. You catch her eye, and she mouths, "Peacock's winning." You stifle a smirk. Imagine that bird stealing the show while you're stuck with the grunt work. A guest snaps his fingers, and you hurry over, pouring wine with a steadiness you don't feel. His hand grazes your arm, and you freeze, then step back, heart racing. The domina's gaze sharpens, she misses nothing. You're not just dodging spills, you're dodging danger. Every move a tightrope walk. Ever feel like you're one misstep from disaster? That's your night. The lyre player's tune shifts, and a dancer twirls in, drawing cheers. You use the distraction to clear empty plates, their scraps a cruel tease. Your dinner's still hours away, probably cold porridge. You spot Flavia in the doorway, her scowl promising more orders. "Faster," she hisses as you pass. You nod, though you're moving as fast as your battered body allows. The Capua rumor flickers, slaves who ran. You imagine slipping out now, vanishing into the night. Then a guest spills wine, blaming you, and the fantasy pops. You grab a rag, wiping the table, your hands shaking. Mira slips you a quick nod, your lifeline in this chaos. The banquet's peak is nearing, and your tray's empty. You're sent to the kitchen for more figs, the heat hitting you like a fist. Flavia's yelling about burnt bread, and you dodge her wrath, grabbing the fruit and hurrying back. The triclinium's a blur of noise and motion, but you keep going, survival your only fuel. Livia's cry, Clodia's strength, they're distant now, buried under the weight of this night. You're invisible, indispensable, and utterly spent, carrying the banquet on your aching shoulders, while Rome feasts. You're out of the triclinium's chaotic banquet, the clatter of goblets and drunken senator laughs fading as you stumble back to the slave quarters, but there's no relief waiting. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and sickness has you in its grip. Fever, chills, a cough that rattles your chest like a broken cart. Your back still burns from the whip, your hands ache from the harvest, and now your body's betraying you with this illness. But the villa's demands don't stop for a fever. You're curled on your straw pallet, shivering despite the stuffy air.
The quarters are dim, lit by a flickering oil lamp, the air thick with the scent of sweat and mildew. Mira's nearby, her face tight with worry as she presses a damp cloth to your forehead. "You look like death warmed over," she whispers, trying to joke, but her eyes betray her fear. You manage a weak smile, coughing into your arm. There's no healer here. Slaves don't get physicians, just grit and luck. Sura, the midwife, might know a remedy, but she's off tending another birth. You're on your own, and the overseer's boots are already thumping closer. Ever keep working through a flu because you had no choice? That's you, except choice is a myth, and work means survival. Mainstream history tells us healthcare in Rome was a luxury, with skilled physicians reserved for the elite. Slaves relied on folk remedies or sheer endurance, and many died from treatable illnesses. Your fever's likely from the bath's damp or the harvest's dust, but no one cares about the cause, only that you're upright. A quirky tidbit? Romans swore by cabbage as a cure-all, believing it flushed out sickness. You'd laugh if it didn't hurt. Cabbage is the last thing you'll see, unless Flavia shoves it in your porridge. Historians still argue whether slaves were given basic care to preserve their value or let to die when too weak to work. You're betting on the latter, given the overseer's glare as he looms in the doorway. Up,
he barks, stick tapping his palm. You force yourself to stand, the room spinning, and Mira steadies you, her hand a fleeting anchor. Your cough echoes, and he steps back, nose wrinkled. Good, maybe he's scared of catching it. You're sent to the kitchen, of all places, to scrub pots. The irony's brutal. You're burning up, and they want you near the hearth. You shuffle out, each step a battle, Mira's worried glance trailing you. The dominus peacock struts by, its feathers mocking your misery. You'd trade places with that bird faster than you'd spit out cabbage soup. Ever wish you could just collapse and let the world deal? Yeah, not an option. In the kitchen, Flavia's a storm, yelling about banquet leftovers. You grab a pot, its weight pulling at your fever-weak arms, and start scrubbing, the cold water a shock against your flushed skin. Your coughs shake you, and Flavia snaps, "Quiet, or you're out!" You bite back a retort, focusing on the grime. Mira slips in, pretending to fetch a jug, and whispers, "Chew this, mint from Sura." You take the sprig, its sharp taste cutting through the fog. It's no cure, but it's kindness, and that's rarer than medicine. The Capua rumor stirs, slaves who ran. Sick as you are, freedom feels further than ever. You scrub through the haze, pots piling up, your fever climbing. The overseer passes, grunting at your work, a small mercy. You're surviving, but each cough chips away at you, and the villa's grind waits for no one. Mira's mint is your only shield, and you cling to it, one shaky breath at a time. You're out of the kitchen, the mint sprig's faint relief fading as your fever clings like damp cloth. But the villa's relentless rhythm doesn't care about your cough or the fire in your chest. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and now you're sent on an errand through Rome's bustling streets to deliver a sealed tablet to one of Lucius's clients. The sun's dipping, painting the city gold, but its heat still presses on your aching body. Your tunic's soaked with sweat, and every step jars the whip marks on your back. Those lashes from the broken cup haven't healed. A group of legionaries struts by, their armor clanking, their glances lingering too long. You're dodging their eyes, clutching the tablet like it's your lifeline. Remember that Capua rebellion whisper? It's a distant spark, smothered by your struggle to stay upright. If I survive these soldiers, I'm swearing off errands forever, you mutter, though the gods know you've got no say in it. The streets are a maze of noise and motion, vendors hawking bread, carts rattling, a stray dog yapping at your heels. You weave through the crowd, your cough rattling, drawing a few stares. The tablet's wax seal presses into your palm, its contents a mystery you'll never crack. Literacy's still a locked door, like those scrolls you carried. You're headed to the Subura, Rome's rougher quarter, where the client, some merchant, waits. The air smells of smoke, dung, and roasted chestnuts, and you're trying not to trip on uneven cobblestones. Ever run an errand while feeling like death, praying you don't collapse? That's
Mainstream history tells us Rome's streets were a melting pot, merchants, senators, slaves, and soldiers mingling in a city of 1,000,000, where danger lurked for the vulnerable, especially women like you. A quirky tidbit? Romans used to hang garlic wreaths on doors to ward off evil, but no one's warding off the legionaries eyeing you like you're a market bargain. Historians still argue whether female slaves faced more harassment in public or within households. Either way, you're dodging it now, keeping your head down as a soldier's laugh cuts through the crowd. You grip the tablet tighter, your fever making the world blur at the edges. One soldier, his face scarred, steps closer, his hand brushing your arm. "Lost girl," he slurs, wine on his breath. You mumble, "Errand for my master," and slip past, heart pounding. He laughs but doesn't follow, small mercies. You hurry into the Subura, its narrow alleys thick with laundry lines and shouting children. The merchant's shop is a cramped stall, its owner a balding man who snatches the tablet without a word. You're invisible again, just a courier, not a person. Ever deliver something and get treated like air? That's your life, fever and all. You turn back, the city's pulse overwhelming. Your cough worsens, and you lean against a wall, catching your breath. Mira's not here to slip you mint, and Sura's remedies are a villa away. A woman selling figs glances at you, her eyes softening, but she says nothing. Kindness is risky in Rome. The legionaries are gone, but their shadows linger, and you push on, the villa's pull stronger than your sickness. The Capua rumor flickers, slaves who ran. Out here, freedom feels closer, but your trembling legs remind you it's a lie. You spot the Dominus peacock in your mind, strutting while you stumble. If you could sell that bird, you'd buy a day's rest. The villa's in sight now, its walls both prison and refuge. You're sent to the kitchen next, no pause for your fever. Your cough echoes as you enter, and Flavia's scowl greets you. Great, another fan. You're surviving, but each step costs more. The tablet's weight replaced by the city's stairs and your own fragility. Mira's face, when you see her, will be your only anchor in this storm of a day. You're back in the villa, the Sabura's leering legionaries and choking dust behind you, but your fever's grip is tighter than ever, each cough a jagged reminder of your body's rebellion. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and despite your trembling limbs, you're sent to the atrium to polish the Dominus' precious bronze lamps. The tablet's delivered, but there's no rest. Your sickness is just an inconvenience to the household. The air's cooler here, scented with roses, but your sweat-soaked tunic clings, and the whip marks on your back pulse with every move. The word manumission from Lucius's scrolls haunts you. Freedom, a cruel whisper, like that Capua rumor of runaway slaves. If I survive this fever, I'm dreaming of freedom full time, you mutter, though the only dream you're likely getting is a collapse on your palate. You kneel beside a lamp, its curves gleaming under torchlight, and start rubbing it with a rag, your hands shaky from exhaustion and illness. The Dominus peacock struts by, its tail feathers brushing the mosaic floor, like it's taunting you. Remember that bird's gilded life? You'd swap places in a heartbeat, cough and all. The atrium's quiet, save for the distant clatter of kitchen prep, but you're hyper-aware of the overseer's boots, always a threat. Your cough breaks the silence, and you stifle it, fearing a shout from Flavia, or worse. Ever work through a cold, terrified of being noticed? That's you, polishing like your life depends on it, because it does. Mainstream history tells us manumission was real, but rare in Rome. Some slaves were freed, often in wills or for loyal service, becoming freedmen or freedwomen with limited rights. For you, it's a distant hope, more myth than reality, especially as a woman with no wealth or favor. A quirky tidbit? Freed slaves often wore a felt cap, the pileus, as a badge of liberty, like those Saturnalia hats you'll never touch. Historians still argue whether slaves like you clinged to manumission dreams or dismissed them as elite propaganda. You're clinging, but your fever makes hope feel like a fever dream, slipping through your aching fingers.
The lamp's surface shines, but your reflection's a ghost. Sunken eyes, flushed cheeks. You think of Clodia's newborn, Livia, a spark of life in this grind. Could she be freed one day? The thought keeps you moving, though your rag slips, nearly toppling the lamp. You catch it, heart racing, and glance around. No overseer, no peacock, just you and your panic. Mira passes, carrying a basket of linens, and whispers, "You're burning up. Hide it." You nod, grateful for her warning. She's your anchor, like that mint sprig she slipped you. You imagine a freed woman's life, reading scrolls, owning a lamp, not polishing one. Ever fantasize about a better life while stuck in the worst? That's your mind, weaving escape as your hands polish. The domina sweeps in, her stola rustling, inspecting your work. You freeze, rag mid-swipe, and she hums approval. A miracle. Keep at it, she says, gliding off. You exhale, but your cough betrays you, loud and raw. She doesn't turn, but the overseer shadow looms. You polish faster, the bronze warm under your fevered hands, each stroke a plea to stay unnoticed. The Capua rumor stirs, slaves who ran, who didn't wait for manumission. Your fever makes it feel possible, then laughable. You can barely stand, let alone run. The peacock squawks, and you mutter, "Write your own freedom, bird." A weak joke, but it's all you've got. You finish the lamps, their glow mocking your dimming strength. You're sent to the kitchen next, no pause for your shaking limbs. Mira's there, her glance a silent, "Hold on." You cling to that, and to manumission's ghost, as you stumble forward, survival your only currency in this endless, fevered day. You're stumbling out of the atrium, the domina's bronze lamps gleaming behind you, but their shine can't touch the chill of your fever or the ache in your whip-scarred back. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, and winter's biting now, the villa's stone walls radiating cold like a grudge. You're sent to tend the braziers, stoking fires to keep Lucius and his family cozy, while you shiver in a threadbare tunic thinner than your hopes of manumission. Your cough's worse, rattling your chest, and each breath feels like inhaling frost. The Capua rebellion whisper, slaves who ran, flickers, but it's hard to dream of freedom when you're freezing. Remember that peacock strutting in the warmth? You'd sell your soul to be that bird right now. If I survive this cold, I'm knitting myself a mountain, you mutter, though the only thing you're knitting is more misery. You're in the triclinium, where the banquet's echoes linger, wine stains, scattered fig pits. The brazier's a squat bronze beast, its embers barely alive. You kneel, your knees screaming from days of scrubbing, and add wood from a pile, the splinters pricking your blistered hands. The fire catches, its warmth a tease you can't afford to savor. You're coughing again, muffling it in your sleeve, praying the overseer doesn't hear. He's nearby, his stick tapping like a countdown. Ever work in a freezer while sick, knowing a sneeze could cost you? That's you, stoking flames for others while your teeth chatter. Mainstream history tells us Roman winters were harsh for slaves, with minimal clothing and no access to the heated floors or baths reserved for the elite. Hypocaste systems warmed villas, but you're lucky to get a brazier's edge. A quirky tidbit? Romans used portable braziers shaped like animals, some with lion heads, as if a fancy fire could make winter less brutal. This one's plain, but it's your lifeline. Historians still argue whether slaves like you were given extra rations in winter to keep working, or left to freeze if deemed replaceable. Your chattering teeth vote for replaceable, but you keep stoking, survival your only heat. You move to the next brazier in the atrium, where the domina's roses are covered with straw against the frost. The fire's low, and you pile on more wood, your fingers numb. Mira's there, hauling ash buckets, her breath clouding in the air. "You're a walking ghost," she whispers, eyeing your flushed face. You force a grin. Ghosts don't cough this much. She slips you a scrap of cloth to...
The fire flares, and you linger a second, soaking in the glow. Manumission's ghost haunts you. Freedom, a felt cap, a life without braziers to tend. You think of Clodia's baby, Livia, sleeping in the quarters. Will she shiver through winters like this? The Capua lemur stirs, running, not waiting for a master's whim. Your fever makes it feel vivid, then absurd. You're too weak to run, too cold to dream. A senator's voice booms from the tablinum, and you flinch, stoking faster. The overseer passes, grunting at the flames, a rare pass. You cough, the sound swallowed by the fire's crackle, and move to the next brazier, your hands shaking. The villa's alive with evening tasks, but you're a shadow, keeping fires lit while your own flickers. Mira's gone, and the cold's your only companion, seeping into your bones. You're sent to the kitchen next, more pots to scrub, no pause for your fever or frostbitten fingers. The copua spark fades, buried under winter's weight. But Mira's cloth, tucked in your tunic, reminds you someone cares. You're surviving, one shivering breath at a time. The fires you tend a cruel mirror of the warmth you'll never claim. You're out of the triclinium, the brazier's fleeting warmth already a memory as the villa's icy grip tightens around you. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your fever burning hotter despite the winter chill, and your cough's a constant traitor, threatening to draw the overseer's stick. You're back in the slave quarters now, the air thick with straw dust and whispered secrets. And the copua rumor, slaves who ran, has flared again, like a spark in dry tinder. You're huddled on your pallet, Mira beside you, as Tiro, the older slave, speaks in hushed tones about escape. Your body's a wreck, whip scars, blistered hands, a chest that rattles. But the idea of running lights something in you, even if it's reckless. Remember that peacock basking in the domina's warmth? You'd trade its feathers for a shot at freedom, no question. If I survive this talk, I'm either free or dead, you mutter, and Mira's quick glance says she hears the stakes. The quarters are dim, the oil lamps flicker barely cutting the gloom. Tiro's voice is low, his lined face half-shadowed as he talks of a plan. Slaves slipping out during Saturnalia's chaos when Rome's distracted. They did it in Capua, he says, eyes glinting. We could too. Your heart thumps, fever making the words feel vivid, dangerous. Mira's tense, her fingers twisting a straw. You're all risking everything just listening. Betrayal's a whip, or worse. Ever sit in a meeting that could ruin you, pulse racing? That's you, only with chains and a death sentence if the overseer catches wind. Mainstream history tells us slave rebellions, like Spartacus's, were rare but shook Rome to its core. Though smaller escapes happened, often ending in brutal recapture. Domestic slaves, like you, had less chance, watched too closely. But Saturnalia's looseness might be a crack in the wall. A quirky tidbit? Runaways sometimes carved fake brands on their skin, mimicking freedmen's marks to blend in. Good luck finding a knife for that. Historians still argue whether slaves like you joined plots out of hope or desperation. You're teetering between both, the Capua spark fanned by Tiro's words, though your fever screams you're in no shape to run. Tiro leans closer, naming a meeting spot, a tavern near the Tiber, post-festival. You imagine it, slipping through Rome's alleys, no domina, no whip. Then Mira whispers, "What if we're caught?" Tiro's jaw tightens. We're dead either way, here or running. Harsh, but true. You think of Clodia's baby, Livia, asleep nearby. Could you leave her to this life? Your cough breaks the silence, and everyone freezes, eyes darting to the door. No boots, no overseer, yet. You muffle the next one, your chest aching. Ever plan a risky move while your body's falling apart? That's you, dreaming of freedom while barely able to sit. Mira nudges you, her voice a breath. You in? You hesitate, manumission's ghost, legal freedom, clashing with this wild gamble. The peacock flashes in your mind, its gilded cage a mirror of your own. Running's insane, but staying's killing you. Whip, fever, cold. You nod, a tiny rebellion, and Tiro's eyes lock on yours, sealing the pact. The lamp sputters, and he stops talking, the plan left hanging. Footsteps approach, the overseer.
You all scatter to your pallet.
You're out of the slave quarters, the dangerous heat of Tiro's rebellion talk still pulsing in your veins. But the villa's cold reality yanks you back to its grind. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your fever spiking, your cough a raw scrape. Yet you're sent to the household shrine again, tasked with cleaning the sacred altars for a ritual honoring Vesta, goddess of the hearth. The atrium's dim, the air sharp with winter's bite, and your thin tunic offers no shield against the chill. Your whip-scarred back throbs, your hands tremble from braziers and harvests, and the Capua plan, running during Saturnalia, feels like a fever dream, bold yet brittle. The Domina's peacock is nowhere, probably cozy in her chambers, while you're polishing gods who don't answer. If I survive this shrine, I'm praying for a real fire, you mutter, though Vesta's flame feels as distant as freedom. You kneel before the altar, a small stone slab adorned with a bronze Vesta statue, her carved face serene, untouched by your struggles. You wipe it with a rag, your fingers numb, careful not to disturb the ash from yesterday's offerings. The oil lamp flickers, casting shadows that make Vesta seem to watch you, judging maybe, or just indifferent. You're supposed to pray, but the words stick in your throat. After Juno's silence, you're skeptical, and the Capua plan makes these rituals feel like chains dressed in piety. Ever clean a space that's sacred to everyone but you? That's you, scrubbing while your heart wrestles with rebellion. Mainstream history tells us Vesta's cult was central to Roman life, her eternal flame tended by elite Vestal virgins, while slaves like you handled the grunt work of household shrines, ensuring rituals ran smoothly. Your role's mechanical, not spiritual. Clean, don't think. A quirky tidbit? Romans believed Vesta's flame could curse sloppy worshippers, so you're extra careful with the ash, lest the Domina blame you for bad omens. Historians still argue whether slaves found meaning in these rites or saw them as another master's whim. You're leaning toward whim, especially as your cough echoes, unanswered by Vesta or anyone else. You polish the statue's base, your rag catching on a tiny crack. Someone's carved a fish, that secret slave symbol you've heard about. Your breath catches. Is it a sign, tied to Capua's spark? You glance around, no overseer, no Mira, and keep working, heart racing. The fish could mean nothing, or everything, but you can't linger. You sweep the altar, ash dusting your hands like a grim reminder of your place. Ever find a clue that could change everything but have to keep moving? That's you, torn between hope and survival, your fever blurring the line. Mira slips by, carrying a water jug, and whispers, "Tiro's serious, tomorrow night." The plan's real, and your nod seals it, though fear claws your chest. You imagine running, Vesta's flame fading behind you, but your cough cuts through, sharp and loud. Mira winces, and you both freeze, expecting the overseer. Silence holds, a miracle. You finish the altar, its gleam mocking your shaking hands. The peacock's absence feels like a taunt, even it spared this cold. You mutter, "Vesta, if you're real, light my way out." No answer, just the lamp's sputter, echoing Juno's silence. You're sent to the kitchen next, more pots, no rest for your fever or the rebellion brewing in your mind. The fish carving lingers, a spark beside Tiro's words, but the shrine's hollow rituals weigh heavier. Mira's jug is your only lifeline, her quick glance a reminder you're not alone. The Capua plan looms, tomorrow, Saturnalia's chaos, a chance to run. You're surviving, but each cough, each rag stroke, feels like a countdown to a choice that could free you or break you. Vesta's flame burns on, but it's not for you, and you're not sure any god is. You're out of the shrine, Vesta's cold altar and that mysterious fish carving still nagging at your fevered mind,
but the villa's unyielding demands shove you back into its grind. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your cough hacking through your chest, your body a patchwork of whip scars and harvest blisters, yet you're sent to serve the domina in her private chambers, a rare and dangerous task. The air's warmer here, scented with myrrh, but it's no comfort. The domina's presence is a blade, and you're walking its edge. Your tunic's damp with sweat, and the capo—
You're out of the slave quarters, the dangerous heat of Tiro's rebellion talk still pulsing in your veins, but the villa's cold reality yanks you back to its grind. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your fever spiking, your cough a raw scrape, yet you're sent to the household shrine again, tasked with cleaning the sacred altars for a ritual honoring Vesta, goddess of the hearth. The atrium's dim, the air sharp with winter's bite, and your thin tunic offers no shield against the chill. Your whip-scarred back throbs, your hands tremble from braziers and harvests, and the Capua plan, running during Saturnalia, feels like a fever dream, bold yet brittle. The domina's peacock is nowhere, probably cozy in her chambers, while you're polishing gods who don't answer. If I survive this shrine, I'm praying for a real fire, you mutter, though Vesta's flame feels as distant as freedom. You kneel before the altar, a small stone slab adorned with a bronze Vesta statue, her carved face serene, untouched by your struggles. You wipe it with a rag, your fingers numb, careful not to disturb the ash from yesterday's offerings. The oil lamp flickers, casting shadows that make Vesta seem to watch you, judging maybe, or just indifferent. You're supposed to pray, but the words stick in your throat. After Juno's silence, you're skeptical, and the Capua plan makes these rituals feel like chains dressed in piety. Ever clean a space that's sacred to everyone but you? That's you, scrubbing while your heart wrestles with rebellion. Mainstream history tells us Vesta's cult was central to Roman life, her eternal flame tended by elite Vestal virgins, while slaves like you handled the grunt work of household shrines, ensuring rituals ran smoothly. Your role's mechanical, not spiritual. Clean, don't think. A quirky tidbit? Romans believed Vesta's flame could curse sloppy worshippers, so you're extra careful with the ash, lest the domina blame you for bad omens. Historians still argue whether slaves found meaning in these rites or saw them as another master's whim. You're leaning toward whim, especially as your cough echoes, unanswered by Vesta or anyone else. You polish the statue's base, your rag catching on a tiny crack. Someone's carved a fish, that secret slave symbol you've heard about. Your breath catches. Is it a sign, tied to Capua's spark? You glance around, no overseer, no Mira, and keep working, heart racing. The fish could mean nothing, or everything, but you can't linger. You sweep the altar, ash dusting your hands like a grim reminder of your place. Ever find a clue that could change everything but have to keep moving? That's you, torn between hope and survival, your fever blurring the line. Mira slips by, carrying a water jug, and whispers, "Tiro's serious, tomorrow night." The plan's real, and your nod seals it, though fear claws your chest. You imagine running, Vesta's flame fading behind you, but your cough cuts through, sharp and loud. Mira winces, and you both freeze, expecting the overseer. Silence holds, a miracle. You finish the altar, its gleam mocking your shaking hands. The peacock's absence feels like a taunt, even it spared this cold. You mutter, "Vesta, if you're real, light my way out." No answer, just the lamp's sputter, echoing Juno's silence. You're sent to the kitchen next, more pots, no rest for your fever or the rebellion brewing in your mind. The fish carving lingers, a spark beside Tiro's words, but the shrine's hollow rituals weigh heavier. Mira's jug is your only lifeline, her quick glance a reminder you're not alone. The Capua plan looms,
Tomorrow, Saturnalia's chaos, a chance to run. You're surviving, but each cough, each rag stroke, feels like a countdown to a choice that could free you or break you. Vesta's flame burns on, but it's not for you, and you're not sure any god is. You're out of the shrine, Vesta's cold altar and that mysterious fish carving still nagging at your fevered mind, but the villa's unyielding demands shove you back into its grind. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your cough hacking through your chest, your body a patchwork of whip scars and harvest blisters, yet you're sent to serve the domina in her private chambers, a rare and dangerous task. The air's warmer here, scented with myrrh, but it's no comfort. The domina's presence is a blade, and you're walking its edge. Your tunic's damp with sweat, and the kappa.
You're carrying a silver tray with a bronze mirror and combs, your hands trembling as you set it on a marble table. The domina lounges on a silk-draped couch, her stola shimmering, her face a mask of calm that hides a storm. She's fixing her hair for a senator's visit, and you're to assist, though one wrong move, a tangled lock, a dropped comb, could mean the whip or worse. Her eyes lock on you, sharp as a hawk's, and you feel the weight of her power. Then she leans closer, her voice low. You're useful, girl, but don't think it makes you safe. Her hand brushes your arm, a touch that's not kindness, but possession, and your skin crawls. Ever face a boss who could ruin you with a word? That's you, heart pounding, dodging her unspoken demands. Mainstream history tells us elite Roman women wielded influence over their households, often using slaves like you for intimate tasks, but such closeness came with risks. Jealousy, exploitation, or worse. A quirky tidbit? Romans used lead-based cosmetics like white face powder, which slowly poisoned them for beauty's sake. Ironic, since the domina's vanity is your poison now. Historians still argue whether female slaves faced more danger from masters' advances or from mistress' wrath. You're dodging both, especially as her touch lingers, a silent claim you can't refuse without paying dearly. Ever feel trapped in a room with no door? That's you, combing while your mind screams for escape. She dismisses you with a wave, her attention shifting to the mirror. You back away, tray in hand, and slip out, your breath shaky. The corridor's cold, a shock after her perfumed heat, and your cough finally breaks free, echoing off the walls. No overseer yet. You're sent to the kitchen next, pots and Flavia's scowl waiting, but the domina's touch clings, a violation heavier than the whip. The Capua plan grows sharper. Tomorrow, Saturnalia's chaos, Tiro's tavern. You think of Clodia's baby, Livia, and the fish in the shrine, signs of something bigger. You're surviving, but her eyes, her hand, have lit a fire that's not just fever. Freedom's no longer a whisper, it's a need, and you're carrying it, trembling, into the night's next task. You're out of the domina's chambers, her possessive touch and hawk-like stare still crawling under your skin, but the villa's relentless churn doesn't let you pause to shake it off. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your fever raging, your cough a jagged betrayal. Yet you're sent back to the Forum, the city's chaotic pulse, to barter a trinket, a chipped bronze brooch, for cooking herbs the kitchens run short on. The winter night's sharp, biting through your threadbare tunic, and your whip-scarred back throbs with every step. Tomorrow's Saturnalia, the Capua plan, running with Tiro and Mira, looms, and this errand feels like a fleeting taste of agency, a chance to act, not just obey. The domina's peacock is a smug memory, warm in her chambers while you're freezing. If I survive this market, I'm trading places with the moon, you mutter, though the only trade you're making is for survival. The forum's quieter at dusk, but still alive. Torches flicker, vendors haggle over wilted greens, and drunks stagger from taverns. You clutch the brooch, its edges digging into your palm, and weave through the crowd, your cough muffled in your sleeve. Your fever blurs the edges of the world, but you spot an herb seller, an old woman with a face like cracked leather. "Basil, thyme," you say, voice hoarse, offering the brooch. She squints, then nods, handing you a bundle of herbs. You slip an extra sprig into your tunic, a tiny rebellion, like that dill from days ago. Ever snag a small win and feel like a thief? That's you, heart racing, tasting power for the first time.
Mainstream history tells us Roman markets were hubs of trade and survival, where slaves like you ran errands, sometimes bartering goods their masters deemed worthless. Your brooch, a cast-off from the domina, is your ticket to herbs, but also a glimpse of choice. A quirky tidbit? Romans used knuckle bones as dice for gambling in markets, and you've seen vendors toss them between deals. Lucky you're not betting, or you'd lose your tunic. Historians still argue whether slaves cherished these rare moments of agency or saw them as another leash, just longer. You're cherishing this, fever and all, because it's the closest you've come to being someone, not something. You turn back, herbs tucked in your basket, but a hand grabs your arm, a market loiterer, his breath sour with wine. "Pretty thing, got more to trade?" You wrench free, coughing hard, and he backs off, muttering about 6 slaves. Your heart's pounding, but you keep moving, the forum's noise swallowing your fear. The Capua plan burns brighter. Tomorrow, the tavern, running. You think of Clodia's baby, Livia, and the fish carved in Vesta's shrine, signs of hope you're clinging to. The dominus touch, her power, fuels your resolve. You won't let her own you forever. Ever make a choice that feels like jumping off a cliff? That's you, bartering in the dark, one step closer to rebellion. Mira's face flashes in your mind, her nod sealing the plan. You imagine her trading quips about the peacock, grounding you. The villa's walls loom ahead, and you slip inside, handing the herbs to Flavia, who grunts high praise. Your cough echoes, but she's too busy to care. You're sent to sweep the courtyard next, no rest for your fever or the fire in your chest. The brooch is gone, but its trade gave you something bigger, a spark of control, a taste of the freedom Tyros promised. Saturnalia's chaos is hours away, and you're carrying this moment, fragile but fierce, into the night's final grind. You're back in the villa, the forum's fleeting taste of agency, the traded brooch, that stolen herb sprig, still tingling in your veins. But the weight of your fever and the villa's grind crushes any spark of triumph. You're a female slave in ancient Rome, your body a wreck of whip scars, harvest blisters, and a cough that's now a raw, relentless rasp. It's the eve of Saturnalia, and the Capua plan, running with Tiro and Mira to a tavern by the Tiber, looms like a star you can't reach. You're sent to the slave quarters for the night, your final task done, and you collapse onto your straw pallet, the cold seeping through your thin tunic. The dominus peacock, smug in her warm chambers, feels like a taunt from another world. "If I survive till dawn, I'm already a legend," you mutter, though the only legend here is your stubborn will to keep breathing. The quarters are dim, the oil lamps glow barely touching the cracked plaster walls. Mira's on her pallet nearby, her face shadowed but tense. She's thinking of the plan too. The air hums with the snores of other slaves, but you catch Tiro's low whisper across the room, finalizing tomorrow's escape. Your fever makes his words swim, but they anchor you. Saturnalia's chaos, a chance to slip away.
Your chest tightens, not just from sickness, but from the choice ahead. Run, and you might die. Stay, and you're already dying. Ever lie awake, torn between a risk and a cage? That's you, staring at the ceiling, Clodia's baby Livia's cry echoing in your mind, a fragile hope for a better world. Mainstream history tells us Saturnalia was a brief window of loosened rules, when slaves could move more freely, making it a rare moment for escape attempts, though most ended in recapture or death. A quirky tidbit: Romans tossed dice during Saturnalia, believing luck ruled the festival. You're gambling too, but with your life, not bones. Historians still argue whether slaves like you ran from desperation or a spark of belief in something better. You're both, desperate, but clinging to the fish carved in Vesta's shrine, to Mira's mint, to the brooch you bartered. Your cough breaks the silence, and Mira's hand finds yours, a lifeline in the dark.
You squeeze her hand, whispering, "We're doing this, right?" She nods, her eyes fierce despite her fear. Tyro's voice fades, he's done talking, and the plan's set. Your fever paints visions, running through Rome's alleys, the Tiber's glint, a life without the dominus touch or the overseer's whip. But your body's heavy, each breath a fight, and doubt creeps in. Can you even walk, let alone run? You think of the Domina's mirror, your hollow reflection, and the capal rumor, slaves who dared. You're not them, not yet, but you're close, teetering on the edge. The peacock's gilded cage flashes. You won't be that bird, owned and ornamental. The lamp sputters, and you pull the rag Mira gave you, her brazier day gift, over your chest, its faint warmth a promise of her beside you tomorrow. Your cough softens, or maybe you're just too tired to notice. The quarters fade, your eyes drifting shut, and you dream, not of chains, but of open fields, no sickle, no master. The Tiber calls, and you're running, Mira's laugh at your side, Livia grown and free. It's a fragile dream, but it carries you into sleep, your body still, your heart racing toward tomorrow's gamble. The world softens now, the villa's sharp edges blurring as your breath slows, each exhale a gentle release. The straw beneath you cradles like a cloud, the cold a distant whisper. Mira's hand, Tyro's plan, the fish in the shrine, their stars in a vast quiet sky, guiding you to rest. The Tiber's flow hums in your dreams, a lullaby of possibility, washing away the whip, the fever, the Domina's gaze. You're not running yet, but you're floating, weightless, the grind falling behind. Let the night hold you. Let hope linger like a warm ember. Sleep deep, safe in this moment, where freedom's a whisper you can almost touch. Good night, sweet dreamer, until dawn.